It is time for the live show, the big show. It's the Audible Live. Did you tweet us out yet, Sigmund?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Look at you. You're ahead of the game. You're
I
ahead of
like
the
being with
game,
my
man.
people. I want to be with my people.
Okay, yeah. Let's get cozy on this program and talk about what we saw in week 3 action, including what? Daniel Jones. He won? Yeah. Okay, Cleveland. 21-15, the final score. The Giants over the Browns. Let's talk about the Giants side. And Daniel Jones, 236, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Malik Neighbors threw a pass. I love him so. Devin Singletary was 16-65 and a rushing touchdown. Tyrone Tracy was 5 for 23. Keep a watch there. Malik Neighbors, 8 for 78 and 2 touchdowns. Yes. Wan'Dale Robinson, you've mentioned him as a what the heck flex pretty much on a weekly basis, Bloom.
Right.
Yes, 7 for 61. Yeah, yes. This is what you're not going to do much from the tight ends. Whatever. Singletary also had 443 as a receiver. So you can go on the road against a team and a defense like Cleveland, and you can win with emphasis on Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, and what does a defense like Cleveland mean these days? Myles Garrett has 2 bum wheels. I think 2 different times he left this game. You take Myles Garrett off the field, that's a big deal. And what you're seeing is Cleveland's a bad team. I mean, Cleveland seems like a get-right team. What does this mean about Jacksonville? We're going to watch them Monday night. But we can see 2 games in Cleveland, and they got pantsed, completely pantsed. The 2 teams are going to play each other, by the way, the Cowboys and the Giants on Thursday night. I mean, they kind of tightened this game. It was close enough to be in question at the end, but it's the Giants. And Daniel Jones, who now has had 2 straight games where you were thinking Brian Dable, not Mike Kafka, doing the play calling, Malik Neighbors. Now you have a strategic advantage. Now you have someone foundational who they declared this summer. Malik Neighbors is a foundational player. Our offense is going to be designed around him. So maybe not being able to trade up for Drake May, well, maybe we'll induce someone else to pay Daniel Jones. But for fantasy, Daniel Jones paid off. Malik Neighbors, he is paying off. I think if we were drafting today, he'd be a top 15, top 18 pick. As long as this team is good, Devin Singletary is paying off. And again, you're going to look at Cleveland and say, play your running backs against them. This is a bad team. Like you said, even Wan'Dale Robinson with Daniel Jones dealing a lot of underneath targets there for him. So at least in PPR leagues, deep PPR leagues, he is a cheap play. And the Giants, hey, if the kicker hadn't got hurt last week, we'd be talking about them with 2 wins and facing a Dallas team. I don't know if the Giants are just okay, mediocre, or bad, but just not as bad as Cleveland. And I'm not sure how to feel about Dallas at this point, but I know that we will learn something about them on Thursday night.
I think there was some silliness that came across the newswire on Saturday, Bloom, because it was like Deshaun Watson looking to get off the schneid and get 300 yards passing. I'm like, well, we're not projecting him for that.
No.
He had 196, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. And okay, right. Look at the matchup-based football, but how much faith and by the way, 8 sacks. How much faith can fantasy GMs have in this offense? I mean, not a lot. They can't run the ball without Nick Chubb consistently. Jerome Ford, 10 for 37. Amari Cooper was back, though, 7 for 86, 2 touchdowns. So as we saw Jerry Jeudy have chemistry with Deshaun, well, today it was Amari's day. Jeudy with 4 for 27. Jordan Akins, 4 for 29. Jerome Ford, by the way, had 3 for 33 as a receiver. So, yeah, you already had questions if you're starting your Browns. Now you just have more questions.
Right. I mean, they're a lethargic team. I think with Deshaun Watson, they're just kind of a lethargic team. And yes, Watson, at the end of the day, you get a touchdown when they're down 2 scores late, and he does get you there for fantasy. But how much longer does he start with Jameis Winston there? But what is Jameis Winston going to do? Listen to what's going on with this offensive line. All right, Jack Conklin, hopefully he'll be back. Not back yet. Jedrick Wills does come back. Most of the Browns fans wish he hadn't come back. He was that bad. He left the game with an injury. Wyatt Teller, arguably their best offensive lineman, he left the game with an injury. James Hudson, one of the backup tackles. See, it's week 3. We're already to backup tackles getting hurt. And DeJuan Jones came into this one banged up, the other backup tackle. So even if James Winston takes over, what do you really expect with this offensive line? It was Amari Cooper's turn this week. Jerry Jeudy, one player can produce. Maybe when David Njoku comes back, it's a little bit better. Jerome Ford, there was a fumbled exchange. He did okay in garbage time. They did turn back to him. And again, it's like Nick Chubb. You're holding on to him. Don't drop him yet. But what is he going to come back to? This Browns team, I think, is just being sunk to the bottom of the NFL by Deshaun Watson. and they got to head to Las Vegas next week.
Yeah. Let's head to Pittsburgh, Bloom, because the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Chargers.
3-0.
Yeah, there you go. 3-0, 20-10, the final score. The Pittsburgh Steelers win over those nasty Chargers, but they're figuring some stuff out. With Quentin Johnson specifically, 2 for 44 and a touchdown. Okay, Ladd McConkey 3 for 44. It's enough. J.K. Dobbins 15 for 44. You knew it was going to be tough, right? You knew it was going to be tough sledding. This is the Steelers defense. This is what they do. They take you away. And only 2 sacks for Justin Herbert, but Taylor Heineke comes in this game. He gets sacked 3 times. Herbert, of course, high ankle sprain, game time decision is what they called him, had that touchdown to Johnston and 12 of 18 passing. But it's like, all right, the Chargers can do some really good things. But in this type of physical game, I'm actually surprised it's 20 points for the Steelers.
Sure.
But yeah, 20-10, black and blue beat you up type of game. Sounds like a Steelers win.
Yeah, black and blue, and really a lot of it happened when the Steelers defense was on the field. You saw Rashawn Slater go down with a pec injury. Ooh. Joey Bosa also went down on this one. Alex Highsmith went down for the Steelers. A lot of injuries, as this was a black and blue game, but it was the powder blue with the black and blue, the most important black and blue, which is Justin Herbert's ankle. And Justin Herbert comes out, and even on the bad ankle, looked good and was making plays, but eventually early in the second half, there was a sack, and the next handoff he took, just wheeling to make the handoff, was hard for him, and he sat for the rest of the day. And next week, by the way, it's Kansas City. Might not see Herbert against Kansas City. You take away Slater, you take away Herbert, and this team doesn't have that many advantages. So we'll see. It could be an uphill battle. Quinn Johnson scored on basically a busted coverage or an ill-conceived coverage that Justin Herbert was able to diagnose and get the ball to Johnston. And Ladd McConkey, again, if Herbert had played the whole game, we might be talking a little different about those numbers, but we might not be talking about numbers for Johnston or McConkey until Herbert is back. And the second injury is usually worse than the first, so we could be looking at a multi-game absence here. J.K. Dobbins was the man in this one. And this just shows you in fantasy football, we have the workload split, but we also have game script. So J.K. Dobbins actually got a much larger share of the backfield than the basic 50-50 split he got the first 2 weeks, but because the Chargers were tight and then behind and facing a good defense, it wasn't as good for fantasy. You're going to stick with him. Even if Taylor Heineke's out there against Kansas City, maybe, again, it's kind of sad, Cease, because I would have liked to see them face Kansas City with a healthy Justin Herbert, and I'm sure they probably feel like if Herbert was healthy in this game, it probably would have went differently.
Yeah, different outcome. Justin Fields is controlling his destiny. A rushing touchdown, of course. Najee Harris with 18 for 70 on the ground. Cordero Patterson, 4 for 33. Calvin Austin, 4 for 95 and a touchdown. Okay, George Pickens, 5 for 57. It's enough. Don't get greedy. Pat Fryermuth, 4 for 33. And don't get greedy because, okay, Fields with 245, 1 up and 1 down. That's actually a shock to me, because entering this game, they ran it 31 times.
Sure.
But entering this game, you're always thinking like, okay, 20 to 25 passes for Fields. It was more today, and he came through, and I don't really care about Russell Wilson's calf.
Yeah, it's his game. It's his team. It's his offense.
Yeah, and they love him. They just like Chicago, Bloom. They love him.
They love him in the locker room.
Yep.
The players love him. And for fantasy, you didn't say love him, but we're getting somewhere now. We're not getting back to the old running game, but it was a really nice passing performance. And let's give an assist here to Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator who sets up his quarterback for success and builds confidence in this game, because Fields started out 10 for 10, but it was only for 58 yards. But still, that lays the foundation, right? You make some layups. We all remember being on the basketball court, shooting around, make a few layups, make you short ones. You find your range. And there was one play, and Tony Romo, I think, was really impressed with this play too. The touchdown to Calvin Austin was a pass between 2 defenders in the middle of the field, and it wasn't necessarily on Austin in stride, but was where it needed to be so that the safety couldn't light him up, and then Austin's speed did the rest on the touchdown. We'll talk about him on the waiver wire show. Najee Harris, it's his backfield. Again, not a fantasy result. You got 5 points in PPR leagues for those 5 short receptions. You like that. He went down at the 1 yard line, and it was the last offensive play of the game, basically. The Steelers took the victory formation, or it could have been a bigger day for Najee Harris. Jalen Warren, on the other hand, going the other direction. Let's face it, Harris is a good fit in an Arthur Smith offense. And George Pickens, it's going to come. If Justin Fields is getting dialed in, if you're going to endure these 10, 12-point games in PPR leagues from Pickens, you will to get the outburst that surely is coming. Maybe next week against Indianapolis, that defensive backfield was depleted. You saw Caleb Williams, spoiler alert, throw for 360 against them. So things are coming along for the Steelers. The most important takeaway here, though, it is Justin Fields' team, and I can't wait to see where it goes, Cecil.
Is it Sam Darnold's team in Minnesota? I mean, isn't it? Right? Like, yeah, you working on that contract now? If you're Minnesota, like, God bless JJ McCarthy, but it is so working
See,
with
can we
Sam
just
Darnold.
have a quick side discussion on that?
Of course.
Why would you not? I mean, people are asking me, do you think that they might have, bring back Darnold to start over JJ? Yes.
Yes.
Why would you mess with this? The way I put it, Cecil, was if you just started watching football this year, you would think he was the entrenched franchise quarterback for this team. How comfortable he looks, how the team rallies around him. And today, he even grits his teeth through an injury. It's the other franchise quarterback that we're wondering about in this one.
Yeah, it's the other one that we're wondering about. And we'll start with the Houston side as Minnesota wallops them 34-7. Houston goes down. They're 2-1. Minnesota is 3-0. CJ Stroud, 215, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs, gives way to Davis Mills, who comes in, throws for 79 yards. Cam Akers, hot on the waiver wire. Everyone rushing out because Joe Mixon, which the whole, like, we're going to give him a heavy workload. When that talk was happening in May, you and I were like, well, I mean,
good luck.
I like the idea, but he'll break down. It's week 3. He broke down. Where's the Morgan Freeman voice? In fact, he would break down. Stephon Diggs, 10 for 94. Not breaking down. Nico Collins, 4 for 86. Tank Dell, 5 for 62 in this one. So it's like, okay, CJ. Okay, Houston. And then without that help of a Mixon 20 plus carries, this is what you got. And of course, Minnesota jumping out 14-0.
Right.
Going to change how you approach things.
Right. Minnesota is a good team. And we'll see about the Texans. The good thing for the Texans is you might not need to be a good team to win their division. Okay. I don't know if there's a good team in their division, and they've got plenty of time to get this figured out. We learned today that, again, Brian Flores, this defense, Lance Zierlein put it out there, they can just dismantle a Kyle Shanahan, Shanny McShanny offense. They just dismantle it. Okay. And it is something to watch if you like defensive football, but not if you like fantasy. You did see CJ Stroud rally in garbage time to set up. You got a garbage time touchdown from Akers. Okay. You did get enough from Dell, enough from Collins, who was still in there with Davis Mills. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's bad juju. You're inviting the football gods to poop on your head when you do stuff like that, when the game's out of hand. Okay. And yeah, Stephon Diggs, he's the struggle target. I think that's what we learned. Stephon Diggs is going to be the struggle target, and maybe we're going to need to know who the struggle target is in this offense. That's the part that I don't think we were necessarily ready for with the addition of Diggs. But the Vikings have it going on the defensive side of the ball. By the way, Houston-Jacksonville, again, showdown in this crappy division. The Vikings have it going on both sides of the ball, Cease. And, the names Darnold and Kevin O'Connell, the offensive line. Offensive line is a story in so many of the stories today. Also, all of these things coming together for this Vikings team, and it is fun to watch.
It is fun to watch, that's for sure. And if you're JJ McCarthy, not like this.
Yeah,
not like this. Yeah. Well, guess what? It's going to be like this because Sam Darnold's balling out, man. Sam Darnold's balling out. So why not just have him continue on as your starter? Again, 3 games in, but 4 touchdowns. He's dealing. He's making it look easy. Justin Jefferson doing his thing. 6 for 81 and a touch. Aaron Jones leaping bounds into the end zone. 19 for 102 on the ground. 5 for 46 and a receiving touchdown. Jalen Naylor, you had him as a what the heck flex. 3 for 31 and a touchdown. Johnny Munt with a touchdown there as well. So, like, all things are clicking and all roads go through Darnold in Minnesota.
Yeah, and even in fantasy, that's the thing. Is 4 touchdowns. He left with a knee issue and came right back in and threw another touchdown in this game. And remember, this is without Jordan Addison, without TJ Hawkinson. And you did see some things change here in terms of the running game. This looks like it's becoming Aaron Jones' backfield. And again, we draft, ADP reflects our beliefs about what the coaches want to do or where these backfield splits will start. But then once they start to play the games, things sort themselves out a little differently. It wasn't necessarily that hard to predict that Aaron Jones would separate himself from Ty Chandler. Not that you're going to drop Ty Chandler, because Jones not exactly known for staying healthy. This is a good offense, okay? Good offensive line. You're going to want to break ties in favor of holding on to players on this Vikings offense, including Jalen Naylor. Not that you're thinking about dropping him. Again, even after Addison comes back, Naylor, 3 games, 3 touchdowns. Trust from Darnold. Another touchdown was wiped off the board, by the way, for Naylor. So you have someone emerging here, and he could even get better, honestly, when Addison and Hawkinson are back, because the deep ball then comes into play, and Naylor has the speed to make it happen. Minnesota. Now, this is a real showdown, Cease. Minnesota, Green Bay next week.
Ooh, hot, hot, hot. What happened in Philadelphia and the Saints? Of course, I'm dialed in with the Broncos, but I'm keeping an eye on Saquon on my fantasy teams. 15-12, so the Saints go down at home, and it's the Eagles that travel and get the win. But it's like, okay, it was a flurry of activity in the fourth quarter. Big play from Saquon Barkley. Tons of targets for Dallas Goedert. 10 for 170 in this one for Goedert. Slim Reaper, Devontae Smith, 7 for 79. Nobody else did anything. Saquon Barkley, 17 for 147 and 2 rushing touchdowns. A big 65-yarder. Jalen Hurts, 311 through the air. Great. No touchdowns. Not great. 1 interception and sacked 4 times. This one was just odd. It was odd on both sides. We'll get to New Orleans a little bit, but all right. Philly with those. If it wasn't for the fourth quarter, it wasn't for these kids. New Orleans would have had them.
Even though Philadelphia's offense was pretty good for most of the day, but you had a fourth down where they set up the tush push and they faked the tush push to go outside. No, Barkley is stopped. You have a Hurts interception. Why are you throwing a route where Devontae Smith has to own space in the red zone? The interception. Hurts also with a sack fumble. So they were moving the ball to the Saints side of the field and kept stalling out. It was actually Philadelphia honestly superior on both sides of the ball, but it still took Saquon Barkley. And Devontae Smith, by the way, solid fantasy day before he takes, I'm sure, a hit that's going to be fine, a dirty hit. I think he lost consciousness. Don't think we're going to see him next week. Don't think we're going to see Brown or Smith next week, as Philadelphia has a game against a Tampa Bay team also that is hurting. We'll talk about that, Cease. Broncos show. But Saquon Barkley, and it looked like once Devontae Smith went out, it was like, how is this team going to move the ball? Well, I'll tell you how. Saquon Barkley is going to house it from 65. That's how. Okay? That's how. And then on a play, it looked like, and then the Saints and Derek Carr rally the Saints. Okay? They take the lead on a day when touchdowns were hard to find. And how do they end up losing this game? It was a play where Dallas Goedert is going across the middle, and it wasn't, I don't think, a designed pick play, Cease, but it was a play where it was man coverage, third down, and the defender covering Goedert gets caught up in the wash in the middle of the field. Everything else is flowing to the other side of the field. So Goedert just runs and runs and runs and runs, and then Barkley finishes it. Why do you pay a running back like Saquon Barkley? Because he wins a hard fought. See, so this game was a game that showed the will of these teams. They're both winning teams. Okay, they're both teams that I think you have faith in. But the Eagles sometimes see, and often this is football at its best. Sometimes when a game is this emotionally intense, a player will transcend it. A great player will just transcend the game because there's so much emotion and there's so much intensity. That's what Barkley did in this one. And it also, you're going to make a nod to Nick Sirianni here and the team responding for him after a massive letdown on Monday night, short week, coming out here to face a red-hot New Orleans team, getting a win, the kind of win that could turn around your season, especially when you just have to beat Dallas and the Giants and Washington to win your division.
You know what Sirianni said? He said, "Hey, Vic.
Yeah.
Every day. I got him every day. I'll take that Kubiak offense every day. I got that thing every day." Meatballs and pasta talk. And, maybe you're not affording meatballs and pasta if you had Alvin Kamara. And the emphasis on shutting down the ground game. New Orleans, everything's built off play auction, passing, play auction. Let's play. And when you don't run well, you're not going to set up play action passing well. And that's why Derek Carr goes 14 or 25, 142, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. That's why Alvin Kamara is 26 carries, awesome, 87 yards. Okay, real emphasis, 3.3 a carry there. Kamara also 3 for 40 as a receiver, aiding his fantasy day. Chris Olave, 6 for 86 and a receiving touchdown. Not much else. Rashid Shaheed couldn't get going. 5 targets, no catches. So, you take away the big play element, you stuff the run, you complicate things for the Shanahan Kubiak system.
Yeah. Is Vic Fangio Sicilian? I know that he was at a Sicilian restaurant in the famous plate of meatballs and spaghetti. Because in New Orleans, I think at one time they called part of the French Quarter Little Palermo, which is a big place in Sicily, the population center. And so maybe he was back, St. Joseph's Day is really big here. But the Vic Fangio defense was the story here. And Derek Carr and the Saints offense comes back to earth. Okay. Still made some things happen, but like you said, Cease, they stopped the run and everything else got stopped. You still got a good game from Olave, who came out and looked like he was having a massive game early. Shaheed almost got a touchdown. Actually, he's more on Shaheed than Carr. The long touchdown shots are there. So don't get too discouraged about Shaheed. It's going to come. This was an inspired defensive performance by the Eagles. There was a blocked punt. Steve Gleason, who had a recent health episode, he was in the house. So,
Nice.
that was nice, but not enough. I mean, they had a lot of the football gods on their side in this one, as it was a game they really shouldn't have been able to win, but then should have been able to win. Don't wear out Kamara, by the way. A lot of hits in this game. Kamara taking a lot of punishment, and that's the role he's going to be in. And now the Saints have to get back up because they have to go to Atlanta next week.
Yes. All right. 4 games down, 3 games to go. We're doing the early games. Of course, if you know the Konami code, the secret code. And whenever the Broncos game is done, then we do a recap. So whether that's a morning game, like it's a morning game next week, or it's an afternoon game, we'll do it when we do it. And Bloom, you always got stuff to do in New Orleans. So let's get 3 games done and get out of here on today's program. Loving our live audience, loving everyone joining us while the games are still going on. But Denver at Tampa, how could they do it? Well, no Vita Vea. That helps. 26-7, by the way, the final score. Broncos get the win. And then run the damn ball, but not with Javonte Williams. Now with more Tyler Beatty, everyone rushing to the waiver wire because with Javonte, we've already said shut him down. Yeah, shut him down indeed. And after a fumble that almost lost their momentum in the second quarter, yeah, it's looking like the Tyler Beatty show. We'll see. I'll be in West Virginia next week with the Broncos as they stay back east to then face the Jets in week 4. I'll let you know. I'll text you, Bloom, because we can't say, but we'll see if Beatty's the first back out there with the first team in practice. He should be. Cortland Sutton, he's not a number 1. Well, he's their number 1, so treat him like a number 1. They did that. 7 for 68 in this one. I don't think you're rushing to the waiver wire for a little Jordan Humphrey or Josh Reynolds or whatever.
Right.
I certainly know the tight ends are doing anything. Mims doing a little bit more, but not much. It's really okay. Can Beatty do something? Jalen McLaughlin with a rushing touchdown. Bo Nix with a rushing touchdown. No sacks for Bo. Wasn't sacked at all in this one. No picks either. So he's got 4 picks in 3 games, but none today. No touchdowns either. So we're waiting for the first Bo Nix touchdown. So things are kind of coming together, but a much better game plan from Sean Payton today.
And I think we can see a great first drive. And again, that first drive or that early part of the game, really getting Bo Nix on track in this one. And it was a good game plan. Now, this just might be the kind of offense, the kind of quarterback at his point in his development where when they face good defenses, it's going to be bad. But when they face depleted defenses or bad defenses, it could be okay. Okay. Not they're going to run up the score or anything like that, but they're going to be effective enough. And it was a good fantasy result too. So certainly in Superflex 2 quarterback leagues, you like this. We'll see again the Jets next week, a good defense. Jaquil McLaughlin, and that was really the point in the game, I think, where Denver took control of the game because there was a 4th down and goal, and McLaughlin should have been caught, but he's the quick. Thankfully, it was the quick, fast back and not Javonte Williams who got the ball on that play. So he scored. Sutton got some volume. Like you said, we're going to talk about Tyler Beatty on the Waiver Wire show. There will be Lassie Parks. And Denver, at least now we're not laughing. We're not laughing at Nix. We're not laughing at Peyton. But we might be cringing whenever the Jets get after Nix next week.
Yeah, we'll see that. We'll see the Tampa side here because Baker was disrupted today. 7 sacks, hit 9 times. And, you've got some concerns there because Baker, when it's clean, he can make it happen. And he was trying, man, taking some big hits, distributing the ball. While we talk about Tyler Beatty, we need to talk more about Bucky Irvin.
Yeah.
because that's the guy. That's the guy. And Rashad White's not doing it. A little groin injury. You want to blame that? That's fine. But he's not getting it done. Bucky Irving is 70 yards on only 9 carries. So give him more. Yeah. Oh, he's a small guy. Oh, okay, whatever. Give him more. Mike Evans with Pat Surtain. That was 2 for 17 day. And one of those catches was on PJ Locke, not on Surtain. Rashad White did have 5 catches, only 18 yards. K. Dotton was 7 for 47. Broncos still can't cover tight ends. Chris Godwin, not always on Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan there sometimes, but 6 for 53 and a touchdown that was beautiful. Moss had great coverage, and it was a Godwin touchdown because you can't stop Chris Godwin. So they couldn't get anything going. They barely got any momentum, came out in the second half, couldn't do anything either. And maybe it's just Sean Payton being familiar with Todd Bowles from his time in New Orleans.
Yeah, and maybe we just need to accept that, hey, the Broncos have a good defense, above average defense. The first week, Ken Walker put the lean on them. And then containing the Steelers, we might have thought, well, that's what everyone's going to do. But they did make life hard for the Steelers, especially in the second half. Second half adjustments, Steelers didn't do anything against them. So maybe this is a good defense. Baker Mayfield coming back to earth in this one. And again, next week against a game Philadelphia defense, we're not loving that. Like you said, it was Patrick Surtain. Look, Surtain took out Pickens. He took out Metcalf. So not a surprise here. We're going to avoid number 1 receivers next week. Now, Garrett Wilson, they move him around. Well, we'll see. We'll see. That's the game plan challenge for the Jets, although the Jets are showing they have other targets. Bucky Irving's, like you said, there's your fantasy headline. Bucky Irving is here. Okay. And it might not be enough for Bucky Irving to have standalone every week you play in value. And certainly not next week against Philadelphia after what they did against Kamara. But we're going to talk about that. Absolutely on the waiver wire show. Irving should not be on the waiver wire. Godwin's going to get his no matter what. Otton, like you said, Cecil, well, at least they didn't cover him, but he was only getting open for short passes. Had a fumble that basically put the game away. That was it. That was the last gasp. And again, Tampa feeling great after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks. They look like a banged up team, and they're facing a team that is going the other direction after a hard fought win today.
Why did we ever talk about Jordan Love this week? Like, not us specifically, but the Packers themselves. Like, oh, I don't know. It's like, oh, hey. Like, especially with the big matchup coming up. Like, just give him another week, man. And it's Malik Willis revenge. Packers win 30-14 over the Titans. Willis with 202 passing, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Very efficient, 13-19. Keep it simple there, and sacked 3 times. And then led the team in rushing. It's Malik Willis, man. He's dangerous. 73 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown. Josh Jacobs with 14 for 43, also a catch for 5 yards. Emmanuel Wilson with 12 for 50, and then a couple catches for 35 yards and the touchdown. Jaden Reed with 4 for 50. Christian Watson with 2 for 67. So, Malik, you did your job. You did what backup quarterbacks are supposed to do. The offense had some changes, but you ran it, and you won games. Now, maybe Jordan Love next week.
Yeah, and Cecil, I got to say, and I want to give all the credit to Malik Willis for everything he did. But the name we got to be saying is Matt LaFleur. That's the name. And was Aaron Rodgers getting in the way of us seeing that LaFleur is in that conversation as the next generation after McVay and Shanahan in that tree of setting his players up for success, utilizing his players, optimizing them, because he sure seems like he set up Jordan Love for success. And wow, is this not a blueprint, a master class in setting up a backup quarterback for success? So don't get rid of any of your Packers. Don't sell low, because when Jordan Love returns, and see, why did we see all that stuff? Maybe they wanted to allow him to look like, hey, I'm gritting my teeth. I want to get out there for my team. I don't know. They don't need to do that. That's the great thing is you see with Willis meshing with these plays and executing. They don't need to do that. We will probably see Love next week, but Malik Willis, some teams saying, hey, if we put him in this kind of offense, maybe there could be something there. So that seemingly inconsequential trade, a pretty big trade and a pretty big fantasy result if you played Willis in your Superflex league. And Emmanuel Wilson, we will talk about him on the waiver wire show. And Josh Jacobs is still the guy, and it's still a good offense, and it's still a winning team. So we're not that down on Jacobs. But much like I said with the Vikings, again, these two teams play next week. You want players attached to this offense. It's just that simple. You want players attached to this offense, even though it wasn't there for the passing game today, because the defense is really good. And they didn't have to put their foot on the gas on offense. Again, Minnesota, Green Bay, it's kind of game sees. You want to just clear the plate. You want to sit back and watch two teams that are playing really well, two coaches that are on top of their game right now, early season showdown.
Looking good. Will Levis not looking good, but 26, 34, 260, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. I believe during the week, Bloom, correct me if I'm wrong, they were talking about DeAndre Hopkins using him more. Well, 6 for 73 and a touchdown. Thank you for that. Tajay Spears, 4 for 54 as a receiver, still the backup in the backfield, but they only ran it 11 times. It's 17 first quarter points for Green Bay. That changes some things. And this is 20-7 at halftime. So, of course, that changes some things. But 11 rushing attempts. You have Will Levis at quarterback. Like, memo to Tennessee. You have Will Levis. You can't do that. But Tony Pollard didn't do anything. Spears didn't do anything on the ground. Had to do more as a receiver. No one outside of Hopkins did much. Josh Wiley with 4 for 43. But it's like, and Nick Vannett, by the way, got the other touchdown from Levis. But some problems now for 0-3 Tennessee.
Yeah, the same problems we've seen, really. That Will Levis, he can be good on 90, 95% of the plays. Promising, even. But the plays that it goes bad are complete breakdowns. In this case, it was just staring down an out-breaking route. You don't stare down an out-break. Not with Jair Alexander out there.
Whew.
You don't. In the game, and it felt like at that moment the game was, I don't want to say the game was over, but it was going to be an uphill battle. Again, a mistake by Will Levis. Now, like you said, there's some fantasy value there for DeAndre Hopkins, not Calvin Ridley this time. And to Levis's credit, like many other quarterbacks, like Kyler Murray, for instance, has learned, Deshaun Watson, like you just let Hopkins go out and win his space. He still got it even at this point in his career. We'll see how his knee holds up over the course of the season. I'm still not that excited to play anyone from this Titans offense. And now that includes Tony Pollard, because we saw, okay, against some middling teams, you could get a game script, even with Will Levis making mistakes, to get Tony Pollard going, but not in this one. Now, again, next week against Miami, maybe it is a Tony Pollard game, but also Tajay Spears shows some explosion, doesn't miss a game with that ankle issue. So maybe we see some more Spears. Maybe, as Brian Callahan said earlier in the season, he does get this closer to 50-50. And for Callahan, it's strange. And it was the tight ends also, by the way, Josh Wiley, not Chigo Okonkwo. But with Callahan sees, I think job one this year was determine if Will Levis is the guy. Surround him with a bunch of weapons. Put him in a scheme that sets him up for success. Offensive line, his dad's going to make it better. And it's 3 games in. I'm not saying we already know about Levis, but I think we're learning. And what we're learning is that he's his own worst enemy. He has a lot of tools. He looks good when he's good, but so this could go either direction. He irons out those mistakes. We're good. If the mistakes start multiplying, if his confidence starts to slip, then really Callahan's starting his job next year.
Yeah. So we'll put a pin in it. Just like we have to watching these rookie quarterbacks. In our final game, we're going to recap here. Week 3 instant reactions for fantasy football. It is the Audible. Make sure to subscribe to all of our YouTube channels for Football Guys and check out footballguys.com. Sign up for that free daily newsletter. Let's talk about this situation in Chicago, because I think it was Rome Odunze's dad that was tweeting out like videos of his son being wide open. Right. Yeah, he's open. He's open. Caleb knows that now because it was 11 targets for Odunze, 6 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Cole Kmet, 10 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. DJ Moore, 8 catches, 78 yards, no touchdown. Roschon Johnson, 4 for 32 as a receiver, and then 8 for 30 on the ground to lead the way. They ran it 28 times, just got 63 yards. Caleb Williams, 33 of 52, 363, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs, but a loss, 21-16. The Colts get the victory. Let's talk about the Bears and maybe some growth we're seeing from Caleb Williams.
Maybe. The dismaying thing for the Bears is everybody has been able to run on the Colts so far this year, but not the Bears. And not Khalil Herbert. Roschon Johnson getting a little more work early. It doesn't matter who the running back is. The Bears just can't establish one. That makes it tough on Caleb Williams. A lot of this was garbage time. Okay, but hey, it's all created equal for fantasy. And Odunze is getting going. And maybe when Keenan Allen comes back, we'll see when that's going to be, hopefully next week. Next week against the Rams, there's a winnable game for the Bears after they somehow won in week 1 against Tennessee. So we'll see. Odunze more obviously is sticking around our lineup waiting for the big play there. Kmet, I mean, because this is like Hunter Henry in week 2. Is it going to come back down to earth? We'll see. I think best ball leagues you like that, but really it looks like this is an offensive line that has problems. Shane Waldron, see, so we can call out the good offensive coordinators. We've got to call out the bad ones. I think that if you're a Bears fan, you're thinking, can we see Caleb Williams with another offensive coordinator, please? because it doesn't seem like he's getting set up. So don't think that this big stat line means that the Bears got something figured out. What they figured out is you can pick on the Colts corners when they're nursing a lead. And what the Colts figured out is Anthony Richardson is not the face of this offense.
Jonathan Taylor is.
Yeah.
My God, he's awesome. 23 for 110, 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. Taylor also had a catch for 25 yards. Just give him the rock. Give me the rock. Give me the rock. That's the guy. Alec Pierce, 1 for 44. Kylan Granson, 1 for 40. Michael Pittman, 4 for 36. A.D. Mitchell, nothing. And Anthony Richardson, 10 of 20, 167, no touchdowns, 2 INTs in this one. So, yeah, Taylor, good. Everything else, work in progress.
Yeah, and this is coming soon to a hold-on segment near you. We're not starting Anthony Richardson after 2 tough games in a row. Bears defense is pretty good, but we're not going to start him. We're not going to drop him because things just need to get a little bit straightened out for this offense. It is a vertical pass offense. Richardson did get some touches near the goal line. The rushing touchdowns could still be there, and he actually pushed Trey Sermon in for a touchdown. And as long as they're using Jonathan Taylor this way, eventually defenses are going to loosen up. And we're just seeing bad decisions. The 2 interceptions were cringe bad, just decisions that he's only 22. This is a good situation for him to learn. I know I'm making a lot of excuses, but the tools are so overwhelming, and hopefully it comes into play for now on your bench, just because, again, this is if things can get straightened out just a little bit for this pass offense. They do get the win here. You're not trusting anybody in the passing game. You did see Josh Downs at least tie for the team lead targets. So if you're close, he might be a hold on. Again, there's this Colts offense, nothing to write home about, but a win is, and yeah, another learning experience for Richardson next week when the Steelers come to town.
Anything to take away from the games that are going on right now, Bloom? Anything catching your eye? I think the chat room said Laporta was carted off the field.
Yeah, right? Laporta was carted off. So real quick, as if you're hanging out with us or if you're checking this out later, Andy Dalton, hello. The Raiders defense doesn't look, I mean, again, we talk about this with Justin Fields. When the locker room believes in the quarterback, everything changes. And Andy Dalton, yeah, super flex leagues are something there with Hubbard, something there with Deontay Johnson, as expected, even Adam Thielen getting a touchdown in there. And the Raiders, after that big win on the road, slowing down. DK Metcalf with a big play. It does look like if you thought the Dolphins offense was going to collapse, yeah, I mean, so far, that is a tough test on the road. The Cowboys look like a bad team, honestly. In their own building, the Ravens are going to boat race them, it looks like right now. We'll see if that holds up. Maybe it'll be like milk, but Dak Prescott doesn't have enough weapons right now, I think, to come back. The Rams actually scored a touchdown, but the 49ers, Juwan Jennings was the guy you were looking for, the answer of who's going to benefit. Brandon Ayuk a little bit, but Juwan Jennings is the guy there. Kyron Williams, he's the whole offense, good enough for a touchdown. And for the Lions, the offense gets going with David Montgomery, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, not with Sam Laporta. We're going to watch that. Cardinals, you did see Marvin Harrison Jr. with yet another touchdown, but it's all falling on Kyler Murray's shoulders as he's trying to keep his team in this game against the Lions, who now are looking like one of the better teams in the NFC again, at least today.
At least for this week. It's a week-to-week league.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to be ready.
Just like fantasy football.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantasy and reality and on YouTube. I don't know. Anyway, that's a wrap for today's program. We've got Monday morning waiver show that's coming for you. It'll be Monday during the day, but we record it in the morning Monday. So that'll be hot and fresh for you. Sig and I'll go over the early portions of the waiver report that is available at Football Guys. We've got our Wednesday preview, Thursday Night Live, Bob Harris doing shows, DFS shows on this channel. So make sure to do the YouTube things and help us out, help us, grow in our channel, because that's the way that we, advance and strike and get better.
Yeah.
So
you help us, we help you, and we get to hang out together. Because I like me most days, some days. I like Cecil every day, and I love all of you all the time.
Yeah, that's right. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter, X at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey, saying thanks for watching, everybody. Watch these other videos if they come up. I don't know when they come up. Anyway, he's Sig. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.